The following is a paid advertisement. The views expressed are the sole responsibility of the advertiser.
Put the power back in your hands. This is Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark.
And welcome to Behind the Law. I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. As always, Makaila Nichols joins me. Hello, Makaila. How are you today?
Great.
Exciting show lined up today. We're going to talk criminal defense with our good friend Rajan Joshi. Also, Brandon Stewart will be here to talk about HOA and evictions. A lot of people think your homeowners association cannot take your house like a bank can. Bad news for you. Homeowners associations are very, very powerful, but don't let them push you around either. There are certain things that you can do with your HOAs. You know what an HOA is, right?
I do. What is it? Homeowners Association?
You got it. Now, have you ever had any trouble with your HOA? You know, I'm talking about the guy who comes around and measures the grass and then sends you a letter if it's too tall. Any issues like that with you?
I've seen him a couple times.
Well, it happens all the time. And there are a lot of law firms out there that represent HOAs. Not a lot of law firms that represent you in your problems with your HOA. Exciting show on tap today. Makaila, are you ready?
I am.
All right, quick break. When we return, Behind the Law continues. Having debt can leave you feeling helpless. I'm attorney Justin Clark. Filing for bankruptcy may give you the power to lower or even eliminate the payments that have you living paycheck to paycheck. Call me now for a free consultation or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your life. Does student loan debt have you spinning out of control? You are not helpless. At attorneys Justin Clark and Associates, our goal is to lower or even eliminate your monthly payments. Call me today or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your financial life. Welcome back to the show. If you own a house in Florida, it is likely you have a homeowners association, and you're going to hear these horrible rumors about them having all sorts of power, like they are more powerful than the government. And make no mistake, your homeowners association definitely does have power. It's a powerful organization, but there are certain things that you can do when your HOA comes after you, whether it's for unpaid dues, whether it's for your grass is too high, whether you have the guy who rolls around every day measuring your grass or making sure you put your trash can where it's supposed to be. I'm going to be honest with you, it can get a little bit annoying. What can you do when it comes to dealing with your homeowners association? No one better to ask than Brandon Stewart. Brandon, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
So, happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. It is my birthday.
It's his birthday. What a day to come on TV, huh? I heard there was a lunch plan for you, and you decided to come do the show with us instead.
And talk about fun HOA stuff.
The office is a little disappointed, but.
Well, so talk to me about HOAs for a second, because many people know that if you have a mortgage, you don't pay your mortgage, they can foreclose on you.
Right.
Most do not know that if you do not pay your HOA dues, they can foreclose on you just like a mortgage can. Describe the HOA foreclosure process.
Well, essentially, it comes down to paying of the assessments. So everyone knows you have to pay your assessments, whether it's, if you have an HOA, whether it's monthly, quarterly, annually, things of that nature. Much like a mortgage, you have to pay your mortgage. If not, the bank comes and they foreclose on you. Same thing with the homeowners association. Essentially, if you don't pay the assessments, they're going to move to foreclose on your property, literally for whatever the amount of the assessment is that they lien your property for. We've had cases in the past where someone lost their house over $4,000.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that one. That was a tough one, but again, our firm 100% helped that woman, or the client, my apologies, and we were able to resolve that issue. However, it happens all the time. It's crazy, but it's definitely something that happens.
And what I've noticed too, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of these mortgage companies hire these big sort of foreclosure mill law firms to handle the mortgage foreclosure. When it comes to an HOA foreclosure, more local, kind of experienced law firms that have a little bit more time on their hands. How would you compare the time process with an HOA foreclosure versus mortgage?
I would say the HOA foreclosures move a lot faster.
Yeah.
Only because it's not as big. I would say there's not as many regulations involved in foreclosing on HOA properties. So the HOA process moves very fast. And if you don't respond to the complaint that they serve you with, it moves even faster. So I would definitely advise, if you ever get served with an HOA complaint, a complaint from your HOA, you reach out to an attorney right away.
Yeah, do it right away. No question about it. So aside from the the HOA foreclosure process, HOAs get mad at you for other reasons too. What are some of the things that you see clients come in your office and they're saying that the HOA is just coming after me for no reason?
That's a good question. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't interrupt. It's a great question. It's a wide range on the spectrum of the problems that HOAs have with their homeowners. It can be anything from grass, like you mentioned before, to painting of a driveway, to painting of the house, to the erecting of some type of temporary structure. Anything that you feel like you should be able to do with your property is something that an HOA could have a problem with and technically file a lawsuit over.
Didn't you say during the break your mom yells at the people when they come by or something, or am I not supposed to say that?
I mean, you totally threw her under the bus,
Oh, sorry.
but we had a problem. It was like rocks versus mulch.
Oh.
Get
I'm
that
like,
too.
come on.
We
Or
actually
like-
have a client with that same issue.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
So what governs you as a member of the community? What are the documents that govern you?
That's actually a great question, and it's something we should probably definitely
That's
inform.
my second time he said
It is a great question,
by the way.
I mean, it is.
It
just wanna be
100%
clear.
is, because homeowners out there, if you're listening, when you buy your house, I can almost promise you that the HOA gave you a declaration of covenants, which would include the Articles of Incorporation as well as the bylaws. It's almost like the Constitution of the United States. It's the Constitution of your neighborhood, that you have to abide by the rules and regulations. Who's in charge? The HOA board. They're the Supreme Court judge and jury. So it's very important that you are aware that when you purchase a property, you get all the disclosures from the HOA, including the declaration. And I would also advise that you read through that declaration before they purchase the property. Only because then that would answer a lot of questions later on as to what exactly they can do with their property or not.
Attorney Brandon Stewart is here today, and Brandon, HOAs and most of the people who are presidents or on these HOA boards don't have a lot of legal experience, probably not a lot of experience with an HOA, and let's be honest, sometimes that power trip really goes to their head, does it not?
It's insane. It's almost like the power that a lot of HOA, and I'm not going to say every HOA out there is like that, because there's obviously ones that have been very nice and we've worked with and been able to resolve. However, I will say a majority of the HOA boards, they do go on a power trip.
Yeah.
They feel like they're in charge of the neighborhood and what they say goes. Who are they to say what color looks good and what doesn't look good? But that's what goes into these types of things. Like if someone wants to paint their house, who's to say what color looks good and what doesn't look good? Well, the HOA board, and what they say goes.
A lot of times you're going to feel like your HOA might be harassing you, and maybe they're harassing only you. And I say that because your HOA is sending you letters demanding you make some changes to your house, but yet your neighbor down here, your neighbor down there has the exact same thing you have, and they're not getting letters. And there's a word for this, Brandon. This is selective enforcement. How do we use selective enforcement to defend against some of this HOA harassment that we might get as homeowners?
And that's correct. So there is a misconception regarding selective enforcement. It is a defense to an action from a homeowners association that you're not conforming with your declaration. Essentially, what we would do is allege that there is selective enforcement. In other words, there's other properties within the community that are exhibiting the exact same either whatever it is that the homeowner wants to do with their property, they're doing the exact same thing with their property. If you show proof of that to the homeowners association, a lot of times we can get the results that we need to.
And again, I think the moral of the story today is if you have not paid your HOA or your HOA is threatening to foreclose on you, I want you to be very, very clear that a homeowners association can foreclose on you exactly like a bank can, but I can almost guarantee they're going to do it faster than your mortgage company. So be careful. Talk to a lawyer when you have any sort of HOA issues. And lastly, Brandon, you do have some powerful tools as a homeowner when it comes to dealing with your HOA, and that's the statute that allows for a mediation process. It can be somewhat inexpensive, a quick process to get you in the same room with your HOA. Describe the HOA mediation process.
Yes, so essentially a homeowner has the right to, if they want, initiate an action against their homeowners association if they feel that the homeowners association is not complying with the declaration. Before they can file a lawsuit, though, obviously the Florida legislature doesn't want the courts clogged up with, angry homeowners that are mad at their homeowners association. Therefore, they feel that obviously a way to resolve that would be to what's called a pre-suit mediation, which you had just mentioned. Essentially, it's just a way for everyone to come together and resolve their issues before getting into an expensive litigation, which is going to include a lot of costs, attorney's fees, and just time. And so the idea is to get into that mediation, present the best case that we can for our clients, and let the HOA know, hey, if we go to a lawsuit, this is what it's going to look like. This is what's going to happen. We feel very confident. And a lot of times it settles at the mediation.
Yeah, we love those HOA mediations. They can be an effective tool to try to solve your problems without spending $50,000 in legal fees. I want to switch gears a little bit now because a lot of people in the street have come up to ask me about landlord tenant. My landlord is turning off my electricity. Or there's a lot of issues right now when it comes to landlord tenant law. When you're a renter, so to speak, you have a landlord, of course. I've seen a lot of that going on now, and I've had people come in and say, I'm withholding rent because this was wrong or this is wrong. What is that process like for me, the tenant, when the landlord tries to evict me? How does that work?
So based on that fact scenario, landlords do not have a right to self-help in the state of Florida. In other words, if a landlord wants to evict you, they can't lock you out of your unit, they can't turn the lights off, they can't do really anything to keep you from still being in that unit without seeking judicial intervention. So based on, in that regard, if that's happening to anybody out there, definitely let an attorney know, because that's the kind of stuff's not supposed to happen.
And what is the time process? Let's say I just haven't been able to pay my rent. How long does it take the landlord to kick me out?
Right, so the eviction procedure is a lot different than normal civil litigation actions. It's actually more of a summary procedure, meaning it moves a lot faster than a normal lawsuit would. So technically you have about 5 days from the day, actually if they're not going for the damages and just for possession only, literally they only have to post it to your door. They don't even have to get a process server to serve you. So if you see a letter like that that tells you have 5 days, contact an attorney right away, because you do only have 5 days. Like, don't be misunderstood by that.
What if my landlord says I owe a certain amount of rent? I say I owe a different amount of rent. How do I fight that?
Right, so the way to fight that is to file a motion to determine rent, essentially. If you feel that your landlord is trying to charge you for money that you've already paid, or that you don't owe the landlord that money for whatever reason, or that you've overpaid them, you have a tool to file the motion to determine rent. And before anything happens, a court will set a hearing on that motion, determine your rent, and then you'll go from there, essentially.
And let's say the court says, okay, you owe $2,000. We believe you owe $2,000 in rent. What is my option after that?
At that point, the court is going to require you to put that money into the court registry. It's almost like an escrow account in a way. The court holds this money as a neutral party, essentially. We're fighting about the money, so we put it into the court registry. The court will hold it for that time being. So based on that fact scenario, if the rent is $2,000, the back rent has to go into the court registry, and then all upcoming rent monthly has to go in that court registry. Failure to put that into the court registry is an automatic default. So I would suggest to always put your rent money when it's due into the court registry. If not, you don't even get a hearing. You are out of your house. That's it.
We talk about foreclosures taking a year, 2 years, 3 years sometimes. How long does an eviction take?
It depends, relatively depends on the facts of the case, but a lot faster than any other foreclosure would. It could be anywhere less than 30 days usually, unless there's good arguments and good defenses. It could be a lot longer.
Yeah. What if I have overstayed my lease or whatever, but the landlord didn't call me and say, I want you to sign a new lease? I had a year lease. Now I've been there for 2 years. Well, what happens at that point?
Well, it all depends on the wording in the lease agreement. It depends. So sometimes when that happens, you just automatically renewed your lease for another year. Sometimes it says you just go right to a month-to-month lease. Sometimes it says you have no right to be there. Now you're a holdover tenant.
Yeah.
It all depends on what the lease says in that scenario.
Brandon Stewart, excellent job, buddy. Happy birthday. Do you like my socks or not?
Yeah, they're great. Very patriotic.
You're just saying that, aren't you?
It's the American flag.
I mean, yeah, that is very
literally
patriotic.
Well, because last week I wore regular socks and you gave me a bunch of grief about that. So
Yeah,
I felt like I should be patriotic today.
You have to step up your sock game.
Buy me some. Buy me some. I don't have time to go shopping.
Yeah, he likes University of Tennessee.
That's right, exactly.
Bright orange socks.
Excellent
Phenomenal.
job. Happy birthday again.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Here's what we're going to do. Quick timeout. When we return, all things criminal law with our good friend Rajan Joshi. It's all just ahead as Behind the Law continues.
Great attorney, by the way.
I'm attorney Justin Clark. Call me now for a free consultation or visit youhavepower.com and take back control of your life. Student loan debt have you spinning out of control? Call me today or visit youhavepower.com. Welcome back to the show. We're going to switch gears here a little bit as well. Let's talk about criminal law. We want to get behind the law when it comes to criminal law. What do you do when you start getting that call from a detective asking you questions, trying to be your buddy? What do you do if you get pulled over and they ask you to take a breathalyzer test? These are very important questions that you need to know, and the good thing about answering them right here is it's not going to cost you a single penny. And I don't know who better to ask when it comes to criminal law than our great friend Rajan Joshi, attorney to the stars. Buddy, how are you?
Thank you. Doing good.
Great.
Happy to be back.
And it's not your birthday, but you did just buy a house. Congrats. It's a beautiful house.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Don't show her, please. All right?
Please show me, actually.
Let's start with the whole breathalyzer thing. And, you know, we see it in the movies. You get pulled over. They pull out this breathalyzer right on the side of the road. Is that how it works here?
Over here, what happens is they first do those field sobriety exercises which I would advise a client never to do. It's a better indication how someone's going to do in a circus than they are.
Is that right?
Yeah, how they're going to perform in a circus than how they're going to drive a car.
Right.
But then the police officers usually by that time have made the decision to arrest the person. They'll take them to the station and they'll kind of coerce them, saying if you don't blow, it's going to be used against you in court and your license will be suspended for a year. But what they don't tell them is if you blow and you blow over the legal limit, it's going to be used against you anyways. And your license will still be suspended for 6 months. If it's someone's first DUI and they have never refused before, they're probably better off not blowing because they can get a hardship license, so that year suspension, isn't going to make as much of a difference because they'll get suspended anyways if they blow over the legal limit.
Can you do your alphabet backwards sober,
No.
Makaila?
No, I
'Cause
can
can't
barely
either.
say it the right way,
I have
As
trouble
is,
A,
but
B,
backwards,
C,
forget
D.
it.
Do they use that backwards alphabet one anymore? I hope not.
No, they don't.
Okay,
They
good.
make them
It's not even
say
fair.
it, and they make them say it in a certain way. And if they start singing it up, you're drunk. Anything you do wrong, you're drunk.
But I think the point that you made, I think, is a valid one. Once they pull you over, once they pull you out of the car and start asking you to do exercises, you're likely going to jail anyway, aren't you, at that point?
Absolutely. The best thing to do at that point is not to give them any more information, not to talk to them, not to tell them your life story, not to tell them how much you drank.
Yeah. Right.
don't
Just
say that
keep
one.
quiet. Say, I don't want to talk. I don't. I want a lawyer, and they can't use that against you. I mean, if you don't want to talk to them, you don't talk to them. The more information you give them, the more. What the police are doing at that point is they're doing a scavenger hunt for evidence, because they can't tell. I mean, a person cannot. The jury can't smell the person. They can't visibly see the person. Usually these are videotaped. But the more the person does to give the officer evidence, the more likely the state's going to have evidence, to make a stronger case.
And go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, like, when you get pulled over, thank God I've never been pulled over because I don't drink and drive, but if someone gets pulled over, are they just automatically like, hey, you're drunk? And
No, they've got to do an investigation. They've got to get evidence to try and prove it. And that's why they use the field sobriety exercises. That's why they ask them questions about how much you've been drinking, where are you coming from, and that's why they use the breathalyzer. The more evidence they can get, the stronger the DUI case. The less the person gives them, the easier it is.
I think that, and I'm putting myself in the shoes of the person who just got pulled over, who maybe has had a few cocktails where maybe they would blow over the legal limit. It's a very tough decision, I imagine, to that point, because you can either go home to the comfort of your bed or you're going to jail. Those are two very different evenings if you think about it. So I imagine a lot of people out there are thinking, okay, I think I'm okay. Let me just do these jumping jacks or whatever they make me do, because then if I pass this thing, I'm going to go home. But I think what you're telling us is you're very unlikely to pass it once you get to that point with this officer.
Very unlikely.
Yep.
And what they're doing is, you could do 10 things right, but the 11th you do wrong, they're going to count that against you. And they're going to say, well, based on my training and experience, the person's drunk. I've seen it over and over again. Over 20 years, thousands of DUI cases. I've read so many reports. It's a foregone conclusion. At that point, there's about a 95% chance the person's getting arrested.
Yeah.
And it's best not to give them the evidence, in my opinion.
A lot of people smoking weed now, as we know. We've got the medicinal marijuana cards, and I think a lot of people have even maybe transitioned from alcohol to marijuana. I'm not saying good, bad. You can make your own decision about that. But it is also illegal to operate a motor vehicle while impaired on marijuana as well, is it not?
Absolutely. Just like alcohol is legal. I mean, it's legal to drink, it's legal to purchase if you're over 21. If you have a prescription, it's legal to consume and possess marijuana, but it's not legal to drive an automobile under the influence of either one of them.
Right. Now, how in the world can they tell if I'm under the influence of marijuana or not?
yeah, what if
You're
my
driving too
allergies
slow?
are just
Is it
really bad?
It's
and
not the Cheetos or whatever. That's the joke, of course.
Usually they'll look at the person, say they have bloodshot, watery eyes, they're slow and lethargic, they didn't get their license out right away. And then they'll ask them. One thing they do is they question the person. Have you been smoking? And sometimes people are very honest. And the one thing is the truth does not set you free in criminal law.
That's right.
It doesn't. It's best not to talk. The less you say to the officer, the better off you are.
And let's go to that too. The less you talk, we've all watched Dateline or whatever, and we see what it's like. They drag you into the whatever that room.
Interrogation.
Yeah, the
Scary
interrogation room. But it seems like they try to act like your buddy at first, like they're just trying to help you. At what point do I know it's time to not answer any more questions?
The minute you're put into the room.
Yeah.
You know, and they play different roles. Sometimes they'll be your best friend. Sometimes they'll try and scare the person into making a confession. What they want is they want a confession. That confession they're going to use against them in court. And that's why we have these Miranda rights. You know, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford one, one will be appointed to you at no cost. And anything you say can and will be used against you.
That's right.
The Supreme Court has made that, given the officers the duty to let people know, because some people think that they have to talk. If they don't talk, it's going to be used against them. Or if they talk, it's going to help their case that, you know, they were cooperative. It is not the case in criminal law.
Yeah.
They talk. The people who say the less usually are more likely to go home at the end of the day.
You know, I think there's some criminal lawyers out there who really focus on smaller type misdemeanor cases. You have a wide range of cases that you've represented people on, from the absolute worst to the smaller stuff. When I'm choosing a criminal defense attorney, what should I be looking for?
There's several things that are important. One thing is, does the attorney have trial experience? How many trials have they had? Are they afraid to go to court, or are they willing to fight? You know, when I hire an attorney, I look at them and I try and see who is willing to go in there and go to battle, because the prosecutors respect those attorneys. And the best kind of war to win is the one you don't have to fight in the first place. But the best kind of defense is a strong offense, where you put the prosecutor's back against the wall, and they want to negotiate. And that's where you negotiate from a position of strength, not weakness. Also, you got to look at the academic background and, you know, the intelligence of the attorney. One of the attorneys that works at my firm was top of the bar exam. You know, I was top 5 in the state, modestly speaking, and she's the only person that I know who has higher scores than me. And so I hired her.
You hired her?
Yeah.
Oh.
So those type of attorneys will dig in, look at the at the evidence, see what motions to file. The other thing is someone who's diplomatic, because there is a lot of negotiations involved, and how well you present to the judge, how well you present to the prosecutor, how well you can sell your case. So, you know, sometimes the best kind of war to win is when you don't have to fight. And negotiations makes a big part of this of this arena.
Are there certain counties that you've found that are tougher on crime than others?
Absolutely, absolutely. Stay out of Polk if you're going to commit a crime.
Yes.
Stay out of Lake.
The fact that these guys keep going to Polk County to pick up women is it's downright shocking at this point to me, right? Sheriff Judd's going to get you.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Pretty much. You know, sometimes I see, you know, these decoys, these police act like they're the parents of the child trying to pimp them out, and people actually fall for that.
Really?
So,
Yeah, please do not do that. You know, being charged with a crime, obviously a very, very tough time in someone's life. It can be life-changing at times, and oftentimes they have to make this decision: do I go with the public defender, who's not going to really cost me any money, or do we go in as a family and hire a skilled criminal defense attorney such as yourself? You must have been involved in those decisions with families and those charged with a crime. What goes into that decision?
Well, the one thing is there's no price you can pay on your freedom, none whatsoever. There's no price you can pay on avoiding conviction. When the government is going up against somebody with all their resources, with all their power, with everything they have, it is the strong criminal defense attorneys that stand up for the client. They're the ones who say, you're not going to get this client. You have to get past me. I will fight you as hard as I can. I will put everything I can to defend this person, defend their rights, defend the Constitution, and put the government on the defense. You know, a strong offense is the best defense, in my opinion. And so it's important that the family makes the decisions. You know, sometimes I've had families call me and they didn't want to spend the money, and then they call me later and tell me, you know, can you do anything? My son's been sentenced to 30 years or life. And I'm like, it's too late, you know. And looking at the case, I probably could have gotten it dropped based on a bad stop or getting this confession suppressed. But it just depends, you know.
In about 30 seconds, there are people out there who are going to say criminal defense attorneys are bad people. You're out there representing these horrible people, it makes you a bad person. What do you say to that guy?
I've represented a lot of innocent people who are falsely accused. In this country, everyone has a right to a defense, no matter what. Just because the government arrests somebody doesn't mean that they did anything wrong, doesn't mean that they've committed a crime, and it's up to the government under our Constitution to prove the charges, and that's where we stand in. If we don't stand up for, the people who are arrested, then all of our freedoms are stand at stake. You know, if the government can go and just arrest people and they know that there's no check, we are the check on the government. We keep the government in line. When they know that they're going to have to answer to us in court, that keeps police officers acting reasonable. Otherwise, they can just pull over anyone, and every citizen's at risk.
Rajan Joshi, great guy.
Thank you.
Great attorney. Thanks for joining us today, buddy. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. One last break, that is. Makaila and I will be right back to wrap up another edition of Behind the Law. I'm here with Stephen Bader, the COO of IQ Power Solar. Steve, as you know, I went solar at my house with IQ Power Solar. Thank goodness that I did. There are a lot of door-knocking companies out there. There are a lot of these sales organizations that pretend to do solar. They are not IQ Power Solar. What separates you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an exciting industry and a lot of people are getting into it, and that's a good thing, right? For the most part, no one says, oh, I want to just put as many panels on the roof. That's not a good investment. We understand home energy, we understand how to get the best return on your investment, and we understand that at the end of the day, you're not buying a solar system. No one says, I can't wait to get up and look at my system. You're buying an outcome, so that's what we focus on. We focus on an outcome, a promise, someone hold accountable for that promise, and a 40-year commitment to it. So that's what we do.
Really what made us switch to solar was our electric bill was insane. It was $600–700 a month. What made me choose IQ Power was I had a bunch of people obviously come knock on my door, and I just went through and did some research on it. I liked that they were all under one contract. It wasn't multiple contractors. Everything was handled through the same individual, and they knocked everything out in a timely manner and really worked it out for us. They had the best warranties and guarantees in the business, and my wife really liked that. They were fantastic to work with.
Thank you for what you did for me and my family, Steve. IQ Power Solar. Do yourself a favor. Give IQ Power Solar a call today. You will not regret that decision.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Wrapping up today, Behind the Law, as always, with what did we learn? Makaila, what did you learn today?
I learned that you should always be nice to the HOA.
No. See, I hate it when you say one thing during the break and then we go back on air and you're embarrassed to do it.
Let's be honest. It can be a little bit frustrating, but to pay attention. Oh, no, don't embarrass me like that. Okay, so we were talking about the field sobriety test. Have y'all ever done this thing? Because I can't even do that sober. So.
You just did.
I think no, but now I'm overthinking it. Try it at home. It's really hard.
What else did we learn?
So HOA, basically don't blow if you get pulled over, and don't speak really. So there you have it. That's what I learned.
And what I picked up today, and I think maybe most importantly for you, is if your HOA does file a suit against you, they can foreclose on you just like your mortgage company can. Don't mess with HOAs because they will foreclose on you way faster. But I also learned that they think they're all powerful, but there are certain things that you can do to combat an over-aggressive HOA that might be selectively enforcing policies against you.
That sounded so much more intelligent than my that thing.
No, it was perfect. Great job today. Makaila Nichols, as always, we'll see you next week here on Behind the Law.
Yes.
And thank you, as always, for joining us. Hit record series now. We'll see you again next weekend for more Behind the Law.
The proceeding was a paid advertisement. The views expressed were the sole responsibility of the advertiser.